Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Science Conference. We are here to witness an historic event. We have, I think, 11,000 people, attendees coming to learn more about psychedelics and their benefits and therapeutic use. We're here for the next 3 days intensely, speaking to many leaders in the space and bringing you so much more news and updates. So stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Psychedelic Conversations. Today with me, Rabbi Zac Kamenetz. He was in one of the research trials with psychedelic medicine, and he's also here in the conference delivering speech, you're delivering workshops, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a pleasure to have him with us today, and we'll have a conversation around his work and also observations around the conference.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for being here with us.
I'm happy to be here with you.
So you're based out in California?
That's right, in Berkeley, yes, with my family.
Mm-hmm. So first thing I wanted to ask is your background. What brings you to this space of psychedelic space and also this conference?
Yeah. Well, I had never done any sort of psychedelics until 2017 when I was in this clinical trial that you mentioned. And it was so powerful, overwhelming, eye-opening in so many ways. I was already like mystically inclined, naturally mystically inclined. That's how I came to Jewish observance when I was a child. Mm-hmm. But what the psychedelic experience that I had, it made me understand that, and this was in 2017, if this is going to become part of our culture's reality in ways that are just like the 60s and 70s or even beyond in therapy and gummies and inhalers, everything that's happening, our communities, specifically Jewish communities, our theologies, our ritual practices, we're not really ready for that kind of power, potential, and risk that I think goes along with this incorporation of psychedelic material in culture. So I felt that strong intuition, and based on my own experiences also, I needed resources. I needed community. I needed support, and that's why I founded this organization, the first Jewish organization dedicated to psychedelic support, called Shefa, which means abundance or flow in Hebrew. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So how are you finding it? Is there a pushback from your community to psychedelic medicines? Because we speak to so many people from different walks of life and cultures and background, and there's always a little bit of a stigma that the medicines carry because of what happened in the past, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think there is a cultural stigma from a particular kind of population, people who have either direct experiences or anecdotal experiences. I knew someone who had a bad experience and they're still kind of like that, and I don't think this is a good idea. But in general, from our religious perspective or theology, we're not like other faith traditions that have a complicated relationship with drunkenness or coming to other states of consciousness through an outside source or catalyst. There's a statement that says one cannot be joyful unless they are eating meat and wine together. There's a whole holiday dedicated to drunkenness and undoing the binaries of our life called Purim. You might be familiar. So it's not really our thing, it's somebody else's thing. But the pushback that I have gotten from a religious perspective is because what is generated in the psychedelic experience is so powerful. Yeah. They're the images, the insights, sometimes like the encounters with divinity or images of being back in the myths of our holy texts or speaking to the dead or encountering Holocaust trauma directly. Are those real in some way? How are they real? Are they authoritative? And to whom are they authoritative? Just the person who had them? The community that surrounds them? Is this like prophecy? Are they theologically significant in a bigger way? I don't think people have reached a conclusion, but often what I hear is this is a shortcut, and spiritual work should be long and hard, not just pop and then you've received some message. But as I like to say, even the easy way is hard enough.
I love that.
Yeah.
Even the easy way. I feel like the medicines open a door and show where the work begins. It's not the end goal, right?
Yeah. And I've tried to play exactly with that with people. Like maybe one model is the time trudging up the mountain and all of the difficulty of the path and, waiting and hoping and praying and getting some insight. And that's the work, and then achieving, and then whatever else comes after that. But maybe this is just a different model where it's flipped. Yes, it's simple to achieve that state, but if you are committed to the work, then it only it happens on the back end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that's amazing. So, from your own religious perspective and being dedicated to the path of, the mystical, would you say the mystical?
In some way.
Yeah. How did that make you feel after 2017? How your life has changed because of it?
Yeah, it has. I've always, since I was 15 years old, wanted more text, more prayer, more ritual, more community, more song, more reverence and compassion and celebration. And the mystical stuff was kind of like on the side a little bit. It's like, this is enough here.
Right.
The questions, the debate, the dialectic, like that's really exciting. It was very intellectual also. And also very divine, very, intimate with divinity. But I never could find myself in mystical literature. It was like, kind of like candy. Like,
right.
I can take a little bit, but I can't take a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, but the psychedelic experiences that I had, it also made me feel like a bridge to understanding in an embodied way what those traditions might be speaking about in some way. Maybe not the same thing, but I had experienced, for example, on my first psychedelic experiences in this trial, a concept in Kabbalah. There's this idea that there are these 10 divine qualities that are the map of the human body, of all reality, and maybe potentially even, as it were, the divine, called the Sefirot.
Right.
And I witnessed, I was actually learning from the Sefirot themselves. One of them, one pole, which is about, called Chesed, which is about magnanimity, compassion, and abundance. And on the other side, judgment, boundaries, strictness. And I was watching energy going back and forth between them, right? That they were sharing a relationship in balance with each other. And it wasn't just that would have been cool enough. But then I had an insight about something in my personal life where I realized that I was not in balance with those things, that I had gone too much over to the compassion side, and I needed to kind of reel it in to the other side also, and made a change in my life that actually positively impacted a lot of people's lives and myself.
Yeah.
So yes, my life has changed in that way.
That's so wonderful. I always believed, my perspective, personal perspective, it's like us, the container, our lived experience and our dedication to, I think discipline is critical. I think in human life, I come from a culture that also, we like the discipline. We like sort of like coming from a Turkish culture. We do want to bring in some kind of structure and infrastructure to help us go through life. So I feel like when you have that base foundation already, medicine can only amplify what's there.
Medicine can only amplify
what is there.
Yeah.
And that's how because I also spoke to this wonderful friend of mine, which coincidentally, but it's never a coincidence, encountered. And he talks about dangerous wisdom.
Dangerous wisdom, yeah.
He says, when the person is not ready and they have a prematurely access to that level of insight, they don't know what to do with it, and that becomes dangerous.
Absolutely.
It's kind of going back to what you said about devoting your life to a path of spiritual or religious or mystical, whatever. once you have that in place already, the medicine can only bring more of that and amplify and increase, more optimize you as a person.
Yeah.
I resonate with that a lot.
Same. Yeah,
right?
I do too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that and your observations around your community. Because if someone is burdened with a lot of trauma, disconnection, isolation, dare I say, the medicine only can also amplify that.
Well, we know that these medicines are not for everyone. It's not always the right time. It's not always the right thing. It's not always the right person.
Yeah.
And we need a lot more discernment about how we screen people and how we help people make other choices, especially around so much hype, right? It sounds like when we hear things in the media, ayahuasca might cure whatever, mushrooms could help. But people get really excited and people are suffering. So how do we help onboard and offboard people to this modality? Absolutely. But from our tradition, we have several of them, but there is a sense that mysticism or the esoteric, that's really only something that should be approached after, I think the language is, one fills their belly with the primary texts and traditions and wisdom. Like, get that framework.
Yes.
Solid. Because everything else that you're going to experience in the esoteric is based on that, right? That it is a foundation for achieving those states of consciousness and whatever those realms might be able to teach and show. If you don't have that foundation and you're just going straight there, there's a lot of danger.
Yes, absolutely. And there's another conversation I had. It was really interesting. So, as you know, when we are sort of severed from certain path or disciplines, in the Western sort of framework, it's all outside, based on very simple, like consumerism, individualism, somehow incentivized to be one man or woman and just doing your thing and accumulating. And so we have this model on a large, this is what's happening. And that's why sometimes when people come to medicine, they realize and have the insight that, where do I fit in this spectrum or this landscape? I don't think I'm indigenous. I don't have indigenous roots. I don't have any religious connections. And because of the negative, perpetration of the church, they kind of already severed that connection. So they feel lost, and then they try to then adopt native, indigenous traditions. They go to Peru. They try and be part of that indigenous sort of tribe tradition. It just doesn't work, because then it's just like, it's almost like they can't fit in, and there's a massive gap. Like, they can't integrate this. And then you see a lot of people, and we say a lot in our community, like wearing layers of crystals and feathers. But then you have to go back to your corporate job on a Monday. Like, it just doesn't seem natural and organic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I hear you.
Yeah.
And it might be working in some way for them. And what I hear in your question is a bit of critique of that phenomenon, because potentially maybe the word that you're not saying is it's extractive. And I'm pulling something from somewhere else, because there's a real need. Let's not,
like, there's an emptiness.
Well, we could say it as a need or a yearning. Empty, not empty, we don't really know.
Right.
We can't really know the condition of the internal world. What that war going down where the spirit meets the bone. We can't say.
Right.
But when we notice that people are extracting levels of other culture because it provides them something, we wonder, like, what is this about? Is this like, from your perspective of the market or capitalism or extracted capital? And unfortunately, that is a lot of where this medicine work is happening. Is that these compounds or even these whole plants and fungi are being used outside of their original communal context into, like you said, individual settings, eye mask, music, completely covered up. And the individual is maintained, but it has been taken away from potentially the context where we know most about that from these indigenous teachings is in a group setting. Part of, not in just in group setting, it's part of your myth. It's part of your cosmology. It's how you understand the nature of reality. And that medicine is in there. And so take the medicine out, put the myth away, drop it in the individual, whatever happens, there is the loss of a context for people to make sense of their experiences. And we're just kind of without a raft, even in the sea. So I'm hoping that, we don't provide medicine in my organization. We do preparation work and we do integration work. We're trying to understand our own mythologies, our own practices for achieving expanded consciousness, and people are going to do what they do. But what we want to make sure is that when people do go to these medicine spaces, that they understand you have a community to do that integration and meaning-making work with. You're not alone. And I hope that for individuals who are not part of these traditions, that they can form some sort of support network. And there's a lot of support, but how do we actually get it to the level of myth?
Right. I love that. There is a wonderful guy called Josh. He's doing a great work. I'm sure you're aware of him.
I'm speaking through him. I am speaking.
Mythic body?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That has helped guide so much of my thinking. It was like the language that I had been reaching for a long time, and finally he just delivered it on this silver platter.
Right?
Absolutely.
For me the same.
Great.
I was like, where have you been all my life?
Listen to the Emerald podcast.
Absolutely. Giving a shout out to Joshua, the Emerald podcast. He has this mythic body courses.
Yes.
It is not religious. It's completely based on the nature of what we are.
Yes.
I love that. It strips away everything. The conditioning, the segregation, separation. It's beautiful. So I guess the research, the clinical trials, everything is coming strong. They say that stigma research kills stigma studies. So I'm guessing a lot of people are out there, like Imperial College is doing great in London. I've heard that UK has published the most research, and they've done the most in the field. It could be like the center of the research. I didn't know this. I thought US would be the one, but I'm guessing they're just quietly working through. I guess because also we have really strict rules and far more discreet and far more controlled. I think that helps them to push it more. There's always there's an oppression, there's more rebellion kind of thing.
Sure.
I guess. And what are your thoughts? People are also wanting more research because they're not convinced. They want to see it on a paper before they can take what we talk about, right?
I think that sounds like a really good idea. We need more research in all of the facets of everything. I think even the research is still quite nascent and young. So, when I see papers that are put out by institutions or organizations, private companies that have done their own private research with a sample size of 20, and then I see a headline, again, the headline, this molecule, this plant could do this, right? That's marketing. Yeah. That's not necessarily an announcement because has it been verified? Has it been reviewed by a peer review process? The scientific process is being lost, I think. And so if we're going to do this as a treatment for medical maladies, then I think we obviously need more research. And at the same time, for community-based, religious-based, psychedelic work, right, then we're actually just taking things at face value and about the power of medicine itself, but not because we're creating compounds and medications to be prescribed to people, and for profit to be made.
Yeah, sure. Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I thought this is beautiful. Have you ever traveled to UK?
I passed through Heathrow on my way to Israel once. Yeah, I had a beer in the airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any community members? Is your community online or is it in person?
So we have been doing most of our work online because we started during the pandemic. But
Brilliant.
Yeah, but we are now firmly establishing our presence in person programming in California and in New York, and we'll take on the world pretty soon.
Expand into UK. I'm sure our listeners in the UK would love to connect with you and your community.
Yeah.
So we'll have all of our links and your links and your connection, however we can help them connect with you,
Thank you.
and your community. As we're coming to the end of our conversation, what would you like to share? Maybe your observation of being here in this time of our lives.
I had a lot of apprehension and nervousness about coming here and didn't know what to expect, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that this has been probably one of the most powerful experiences of my life, to see all of these people that I have met online or had phone calls with or done programming with or shared resources, people who have come and watched something that I did and I just see names on spreadsheets. People coming up to me wave after wave, people who are listening to something that I do. And I have a hard time where I haven't had the experience of being proud about my work in the past. I feel really proud of what I'm doing and what my team is doing because I see that it's actually helping serve others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the best time for this kind of work. It's been absolute pleasure connecting and learning about your work and meeting you in person. It's been an absolute pleasure. And this is such a precious conversation.
Thank you so much.
And creating this time I'm sure it's like a crazy schedule you have, right? Really appreciate it and hope to have you back very soon for part 2.
Excellent.
At some point.
Thank you.
All the best. And how can they, I know we'll put all the links, but if you could just tell your...
Absolutely. So the best way to find what we're doing is at www.shefa, SHEFA, flow, FLOW, so shefaflow.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful weekend.
And you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed this beautiful conversation, one of my favorites so far. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned. Bye for now.